Hazel, Mrs. Cohen's husband, should have refuah shlema. And we've been also davening for Yochanan ben Rachel, and I got some good news that his illness is in remission and should have continued. Bracha b'atzlacha. Chava Basya bas Ita Riva Rivka and
Lima bas Golda Tova
Lima bas Golda Tova and
Naomi Malka bas Hoshana Leah.
Naomi Malka bas Hoshana Leah. Everybody b'tzok shacholi Yisrael, and also we just came through the doorway of Elul, the gateway of Elul, which is the gateway of the year. And we're going to speak about the concept of Shiur. And this year is based on, among other things, a incredible teaching of the Bnei Yissaschar. Bnei Yissaschar, of course, was Rav Tzvi Elimelech of Dinov. He is a nephew of the Noam Elimelech, the Rabbi Elimelech of Lizensk, the Heilige Rebbe Reb Melech of Lizensk. And he would have been named Elimelech except for the fact that Rabbi Elimelech was still alive when he was named. And they went to him and asked him, what's a good name to name him? And they said, name him for me. But they didn't feel comfortable. And later, the Bnei Yissaschar complained that he wasn't fully named Elimelech. He said, because a hersh is nitkin mailech. A deer is not a king. Right? In the animal kingdom, the deer is not the king. The lion is the king, right? So he says, I would have been even greater if I were named Elimelech and not Tzvi Elimelech. In any case, it's moving for me because this year, B'ezras Hashem, as we go into the portals of this year, we'll be making a bar mitzvah for our son Elimelech, who was named for the Heilige Rebbe Melech, and for my nephew will also be in Eretz Yisrael, whose name is Tzvi Elimelech. Of course, my sister-in-law is a anikel of the Bnei Yissaschar. So here we go. Bnei Yissaschar says an incredible thing. By way of introduction, we're going to play a little word riddle. Take these three letters that spell out Osher, Ayin, Shin, Resh. How many different words can you construct? Shar, gateway. What else? Russia, very good. And also a permutation of Osher is Eser. Okay. Anybody got anything else? Shar, Russia, Osher, and Eser. Yes, Rash, noise. Excellent. Okay. Keep that in mind. This is going to be central to the teaching of the Bnei Yissaschar. Okay, here we go. He says as follows. Elul corresponds to a number of things. As we know, the Bnei Yissaschar usually gives us what we call Mahut HaChodesh. What is the essence of the month of Elul? And therefore, the title of our shiur is the essence of Elul. What really is Elul all about? What's its purpose? Where does it fit in Chazal's mind view, according to Sisrei Torah, according to the more deeper levels of Torah? What's Elul really all about? So he says like this. In the Sifrei Kabbalah, particularly in Sefer Yetzirah, every month is assigned a letter. Okay. The letter for the month of Elul is Ayin, to see. Ayin, 70, see. And that has to do with the world of Asiya, the world of doing. Because Elul, we have to really get to work. We have to turn all of our dreams and ideas into practical reality as we approach Tishrei, which is the month of Asiyas HaMitzvos. We're going to be building a sukkah. We're going to be establishing ourselves in Kedusha. We're going to be davening Yomim Noroyim and Yom Kippur. So we have to get to the world of Asiyah, of doing. And the thing is, in the world of doing, there's two types of doing. There's Yaacov type of doing, and there's Esav type of doing. What's the difference between the Asiyah of Yaakov and the Asiyah of Esav? How does Esav get things done? Quite effectively, I might add. There's an element, unfortunately, of he does very good with Osher. He's able to gather wealth. That's his great koach. I was this summer. We traveled up to Montreal, among other things. We were with family for 3 weeks. And my kids really had never seen like the lush mountains as you go north. That's where you grew up. As you travel up the Northway, and we actually took them to Cooperstown, the whole thing, which was a lot of fun. And no, but we did it 4 hours to Cooperstown and then another 4 hours to Montreal. In any case, the lush greenery that goes on and on and on, and the lakes and you know. So I told a friend here, also a Mishkafayim person, he was saying, you know, that's what I miss about Chutzlar. You know, I miss that lush greenery. And I said, you know what? It's Esav's consolation prize. We have Eretz Yisrael. Let him at least have a nice lake, a nice tree, a park. Make him feel better. Give him a little comfort care. It's like what we do with with someone who is ill. Give them comfort, you know. It's a nebuch on Esav. So we give him a little bit. But we have Eretz Yisrael. Now, so Osher is what Esav is interested in and what he's very good at. How does he do it? Unfortunately, he can fall into the derech of being a Rasha. And a Rasha is La Rasha Lama Takerecha. He's in a competition, a battle. He's basically saying, I will destroy, or I'll be in a milchama, hence the word lechem. I will battle other people and take their resources, which is basically the story of world history. I want what you have, I want resources, and I'm going to fight you for them. And who I call the Olim Gavar, who is stronger will win. Okay? However, Yaakov's way of doing work in this world is different. He uses a different modality, not the cherev, but rather what? What does Yaakov Avinu use? Tefillah. We use our peh, right? Hakol kol Yaakov, v'hayadayim yedei Esav. Yadayim, asiya, you do. And the greatest act of doing for the world of Esav is war. That's why they're so good at making weapons. It is ironic in modern Israel that they've become an expert at making weapons.
You said Elul is Asiya.
Elul is Asiya. We have to do. But what is considered doing? According to Esav, it's the gathering of wealth. Now think about the year just in a climactic sense. You plant in Nisan, right? You plant the summer wheat. Iyar, Sivan, you're hoping that that crop is going to grow. And when do you gather it in? When is the big Chag HaAsif? Tishrei, right? What are you busy doing in Elul? You're busy going down to the fields, right? And finishing and making sure you're working your harvest. So by the time you get into Tishrei, everything has been gathered in. So the real work of going out into the field and cutting down the produce and bringing it back is always done in the month before the festival of harvest. The festival of harvest is already Tishrei, the beginning of Tishrei, right? By the time we get to Sukkot, we're ready. We start making our sukkah when? When do you start making your sukkah? Let's say Yom Kippur, and you're busy, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're busy davening, so when was the gathering? It had to have been before. In fact, there's a very, very famous Gemara about David HaMelech, and this is key, because David HaMelech represents one of the counterbalances to Esav, because he was the one who could battle both with his mouth and his sword, which is the ultimate for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael needs to have a balance between the Koach HaTfilah and the Koach HaSiyah, which is going to be the sword of Kedusha. And what means is that instead of Osher becoming Rishus, it becomes a Shar. A Shar of what? Shar of Tefillah. The gates of Tefillah have to be open. All right? So, David HaMelech, when he went to, he was fleeing from Shaul HaMelech. He goes to the city of Nov Ir Kohanim, right? And what do they give him? They gave him two things. Whose sword? Whose sword? The sword of Goliath. The sword of Goliath. Goliath represents the klipa of Eretz Yisrael, the how shall I say, the obstacle to Malchus Yisrael. If David doesn't slay Goliath, if Shaul can't get rid of Goliath, therefore Shaul's melucha cannot continue and prosper and destroy who? Amalek, because that's David's ultimate job. What David does is he first gets a hold of the Plishtim and gets rid of them, right? And then he can finish the job of Amalek. Plishtim and Amalek there's always a team of klipos. Like when Moshe was going to Eretz Yisrael, who was the team that he had a battle? Sichon and Og. And who was the team that tried to destroy Klal Yisrael verbally by turning tefillot around against them? Balak and Bilam. These represent the 2 months known as Tammuz and Av. Tammuz and Av, in the spiritual sense of time, are those double klipot that are trying to prevent us from getting through the Shar, breaking through the Shar. In fact, the Bnei Yissaschar and the Sefer Kedoshim all say that Sichon and Og were like the 2 doorposts of Eretz Yisrael, which had to be broken down by Moshe Rabbeinu. So what Moshe really did, if you want to understand the battle of Og and Sichon, is that he broke down the doorway, broke down the door that was bolted, that was preventing us from entering Eretz Yisrael, which is in a spiritual time sense is represented by the months of Tammuz and Av, which are the months of Golus, in which foreign nations who work of the Olam Asiyah by the sword, right, come and destroy our what? Our Beis Hamikdash, which is what? The makom of tefillah. Tefillah. Ki beisi beis tefillah yikarei lekol ha'amim. So the tefillah is destroyed. So what is it a battle for? It's a battle over which? Over the asiyah of kedusha, which is the combination of tefillah and cherev, or rishus and cherev, which is what Eitan is. And that is what's going on in Elul. Hence, the Sefer Kedoshim tell us that the actual war, the Medrash says, Medrash Bamidbar, says that the actual war between Moshe and Sichon and Og actually took place on Rosh Chodesh Elul. And some say at the end of Elul. But this was the war of Sichon and Og. Okay? Now, let's go a step further. So if the Bnei Yissaschar says, okay, Tammuz, so let's understand what Tammuz and if we said Elul is ayin, what is Tammuz and Av? So according to the Sefer Yetzirah, it represents 2 letters, Resh and Shin. Not surprising. Resh for Re'iyah and Shin for Shmiyah. These are different kochos that people have, which are instilled in us, but they have spiritual roots. The ability to see and the ability to hear will lead you to what? Do. If you can't see it and you can't hear it, you can't do it. Okay? Seeing and hearing is the prelude to asiyah. What do you want to do? I don't know. I see this. I'm going to set this as my goal. Right? Okay, fine. So, all right. So now, says Bnei Yissaschar, now you have the stage set. If Tammuz is Resh for Re'iyah, and Av is Shin for Shmiyah, and Ayin is for Elul, what does it spell? Russia. Why is that? Because here, the Svarim tell us, the Zohar says, that there's a battle between good and evil in the world. We've had, Baruch Hashem, through the efforts of our Avos and all the Jews before us, have constantly battled and vanquished evil to whatever extent they have, and now is the end game. But who are the greatest heroes in the beginning who were able to liberate not only from the world itself, like Eretz Yisrael, but also from time, in the element of time? One thing that's very, very important to remember. This world only has 2 elements that don't exist in any other world. What are they? Time and space. This is olam of makom and zman, and also people. That's why in every one of the Sfarim Kedoshim, they speak about the challenges of doing mitzvos, of conquering evil in 3 spheres. One in the sphere of time, one in the sphere of place, a makom, establishing a makom kadosh, right? And then an am kadosh, a nation of kedusha. And we, human beings, are bound in this world by space and time, not because Hashem hates us and wants to put us in prison, although it is a prison, that neshamos are liberated from. Once a person passes on, their soul no longer is restricted by space or time, because the neshama is not linked to a body. Once it's linked to a body, the body has a time clock to it. It requires feeding every couple of hours. It requires cleanliness. It requires strengthening. And it requires mental, a capacity, goals, ability to function, purpose, relationships, meaning, a lot of things. And everything works in a sequence of time, because you cannot be in 2 seconds at once. I can only be in this moment of time 1 second at a time, which is why, it's a little note, psychologically speaking, the greatest moments of your life are always when you're not thinking of what time it is. You're not aware of time, right? You're lost in the moment, because what happens then is that you come into touch with your neshama, which is lamalam and amakam and azman. I've gone through this theme a number of times, but it's a central theme. And it's very important to remember, because it's where our world is at. The most important thing I could possibly teach you is where we are at. The boundaries of time and space are breaking apart at lightning speed. And if we're not prepared for it, there used to be a book called Future Shock. Ever hear the book Future Shock? The world was moving so fast that they couldn't even, that's why our kids can do on the computer or on the telephone. And I see young children, I'm talking about 2 years old, that go through the airports, their parents hand them a phone. Do you know that? Like to distract them with a cartoon or something. And the 2-year-old kids are pressing the button. It's scary. They know how to work the devices. They can't even talk.
They don't know how to read a book. Try and do this to a book.
Exactly. Why is that? Because things are moving very, very rapidly, and they're expanding. And we'll go more into this as we've gone different shiurim from a historical perspective, saying what is happening as we go through this very important period of time. But the most things that we have to understand is all the boundaries are breaking down, which is why you can speak to somebody in a different time zone, which you can never do before our era. You can pick up the phone and speak to somebody who's 6 or 7 hours ahead of you or 18 hours ahead of you. How can you do that? They're 18 hours, their experience of life, they're in Togo. Do you ever know which ones are the furthest? Do you ever play that game? What is the furthest country in the world? Furthest place in the world? Like Auckland, New Zealand? And somewhere like Togo, there's places like that. And that's the beginning of time of the day. And the end of time of day is like Los Angeles, I'm only kidding. Hollywood is like the end, but that's another problem,
Spiritually.
Spiritually the end, yeah. That's right. Mitzvah is l'malam and amakom ezman, because anything connected to Torah is l'malam and amakom ezman, which is why the Jewish people still exist. We exist because we are not bound by time and space. That what? Whose promise? Hashem's promise to the Avos, right? But he also promised that we would exist in time and space through the mitzvos. Everything is time-bound mitzvah. Women, by the way, that's by the way, this is a compliment to ladies. You understand why? Because men have time-bound mitzvos. Because they're on that level in which that restriction is much more relevant to them. But ladies who are on the higher level in the Shama, they're not bound by that. They're not as bound by the prison of time as men are. You understand that? It's not like, it's just really the opposite. Their souls are more liberated, to put it that way. But we all have the restrictions of space, which is why the biggest problem that we have is Gullus. Elul is about breaking through the barriers of particularly space. because Galus is what we are experiencing when we're not in the place that we're supposed to be, which is very, very painful. Whenever we're not where we're supposed to be, it's ultimately painful. That's why we have Tikkun Chatzos. We wail for Hashem, whose presence is not allowed to be acknowledged as it needs to be on the place, which is Har Habayit. It's not allowed to be because we're in Galut. Why are we in Galut? Because there are impediments. So if you understand that the goal of Elul is to smash through impediments, particularly in the issues of time and space. Okay, now those impediments often take the shape of pretty nasty folks, just like Goliath. Okay, now here's it. My mashgiach, Moshe Wolfson, said an amazing thing. We know that the issue of Goliath, let's go back to the origin of Goliath, right? How did Goliath come into being? And what is his connection to David HaMelech? Bnos Lot, right? So you have let's go a step further. The two girls known as Rus and Orpah. Rus and Orpah, right? Both marry the children of Elimelech and Naomi, correct? Except that one sticks with Naomi and one does not. Rus sticks with Naomi, marries Boaz. Who comes out of that? David HaMelech. Orpah goes back to her home. Eglon Melech Moab. Moab is very key. Balak and Bilam operate in Moab. Moab is Gematria 49, which represents the 49 levels of Tumah, all the way down to the bottom, out of which Rus was able to liberate herself. Okay, and that's why Moshe teaches all of the book of Devarim from which location? Arvos Moab. Hoel Moshe Be'er, as Divrei Torah, the explanation, the 70 explanations of Torah, which would carry the Jews to any destination in the world where they would end up among the 70 nations, was explained by Moshe in the plains of Moab. Right, where he's buried. Why? Because Moshe's job is to help even the lowest Jew who has sunk to the 49 levels of Tumah escape. Moshe is the only ticket out of the 49 of Memtes Shari Tumah, and of course all tzaddikim who are compared, who always have a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu. All the tzaddikim emes. I'm talking about the tzaddikim who care about the rescuing of Klal Yisrael from the deepest, darkest galuyot. And I told you my story about birthright, right? About my recent experience with birthright. Okay, so let me tell you the story, because we have a lot of catching up to. This is the first year for several weeks. Number one, I was during the summer weeks in a hotel in Yerushalayim, and there was a big birthright tour there. And I've spoken with birthright or Maccabeah students and my wife, because we care, we do care. And I found myself in the room with about, 200 kids. I went in there just to get a chair. I wasn't on the program or anything. But the group leader, said, "Oh, who are you?" Started to engage me in a conversation. And I said, may I say a few words to the group? And I spoke to them about the greatness of being a Jew. There's only 14 million of us. We're a light to the nations of the world. There are 7 billion people out there. We need every single Jew as a light unto the nations. We are people who have original thinkers. I spoke about Einstein. Einstein uncovered the secrets of the world because he had a basis of belief. He believed that God created the world, and that world had to be created with simplicity and with simple equations, and therefore he found the unified theory of matter, because he understood that underneath all the confusion that we see, there is the hand of Hashem. And so our belief and our ability to question what everybody said, I went on about how great Jews are and all the contributions we're making, and I gave them a blessing that they should all marry within the tribe. And I thought that was such a nice blessing. They should all pick a Jewish partner. And I said, you know what? If you're dating somebody from outside the tribe, bring them into the tribe, because we need as many people to help us as we can. Now, I was all happy with myself, thinking I gave a great speech. And I went to my wife, I said, I just had this very nice impromptu experience, and then at the lunch, we were near this, who their tour group leader was, and I went over to say hi to him, and he said, you know what kind of damage that you said? You know what was going on Twitter when you were speaking? I said, oh my God, there's a new shaila in Hilchos Shabbos. You can't speak to people who are going to be using their phones to comment on what you're saying. He says most of these kids are either children of intermarriage or dating somebody who's not Jewish.
Or maybe aren't Jewish.
Or aren't Jewish themselves at all. And they said, today we can no longer use the word intermarriage. What we have to do is, they said, this is the future of the Jewish people. We have to just, whoever is a Jew, they're married to not-Jews, let the non-Jew be a not-Jew, and just let them do Jewish things together. And you know how beautiful that is when they do Jewish things together? And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, and I said, look, I guess I must be old school. I must be old school. By me, the tribe is the tribe. So I had a real eye-opening experience. I said, you know what? If I were a couple of generations younger, I would understand where we're at and how far down we have sunk. We cannot even introduce the concept. It used to be, even in the Reform movement, the idea was stop intermarriage, right? Be liberal, we'll keep widening it, opening it up, we'll convert people, we'll give them an easy conversion, but the main thing is that they should be Jewish and call themselves Jewish. No more. Even among not Reform, even among the quote-unquote more liberal conservative now, they no longer require the other spouse to convert.
And the patrilineal
That's the end. That's the end of Klal Yisrael as we know it. Okay, but that's where Moab comes in. Moshe's still in Moab, and there were some really wonderful Yidden there buried in, who hopefully we can connect to somehow. Okay, so let's go one step deeper now. Says the Bnei Yissaschar, what's happening here is that there was a battle between the Avos and Esav over the year, over time. Avram was able to liberate the month of Nisan. So Nisan is flipped towards the holiness. We have Pesach, right? We have the Yontif of Pesach. The Kedushas Hazman is there, already from the times of Avram Avinu. Well, it's the first month. It's the essence of belief. And Avram Avinu was the one who was told the Nevuah about going down to Mitzrayim, right? He received the Nevuah. It was Avram who was told, okay, there's going to be Mitzrayim, but there's going to be also an escape from Mitzrayim. Yitzchak liberated Iyar. Yaakov liberated Sivan because it's the symbol of the month of twins, and he was a twin. However, that's only 3 out of the 6 months. Now remember, the year is divided into 2 sixes. And this is also a very deep idea. By Lechem HaPanim, there were 2 stacks of 6, because really the year is not 12 months. The year is 2 times 6 months. Because just like Shabbos is the key number, as Orach Chaim HaKadosh says, everything is Shabbos, 6 days, then Shabbos. So really that's what the year's construct is too. There's a Rosh Hashanah every 6 months. Nisan and Tishrei are just parallels. So unfortunately, the last 3 months belong to Esav. We're unliberated. Tammuz, Av, and Elul. Wait. No, you're there. You're good. You're going in the right direction. Yaakov was not happy with that arrangement. And he battled Esav, right? We know about, the Torah tells us about the battle with Esav. And part of what happened in that battle was that Yaakov was able to tear away half of Esav's time. From the 15th of Av, Tu B'Av, until the end of Elul, was taken back to the side of Kedusha. Which is why the Gemara in Tainus gives us the 5 great things that happened on the 15th of Av. Remember, and you know which things happened on the 15th of Av?
They stopped dying.
They stopped dying. And let's just take that one. Kalu Meisei Midbar. There were 600,000 males, heads of households. They were all supposed to die in the Midbar. A promise was given that each and every one of them would die. What did they do every Tisha B'Av? Because Tisha B'Av was the Meraglim when the Gzeira came on them. They would dig a grave. They would lay down in their grave, and every Tisha B'Av morning, 15,000 of them would not get up. And then the next year, another 15,000. Next year, another 15,000. Until the last year. That last year, the last 15,000 did get up. And they didn't understand why. And then they went back the next night, which was Yud Sabbat. They didn't calculate the moon properly. It could be a day discrepancy. And then they did it a third night and a fourth night until they saw the full moon and they knew that they were home free. They were not going to die. They were not going to be the victims of the cherev of the Midbar, but they were going to make it into Eretz Yisrael. They had broken the door down. And that's exactly what happens in the spiritual sense, starting with the day after Tisha B'Av, really, but in full force from Tu B'Av, the influence of Galut and of the weakened power of the Jewish people, and our power is Tefillah, right, and the Makom HaMikdash start to return, which is why the entire month of Elul, Svardim say, Sleichos, because it represents, it took from that 2-week period, which was half the month of Esa. Okay, once we get out of Av, we're fully in the territory of what? Back in the territory of Yaakov Avinu. The month of Elul in its totality belongs to Yaakov Avinu. Hence, Rosh Chodesh Elul is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu goes back up to receive the second set of luchos, and which culminates on Yom Kippur. Okay? Now, I just want to show you one thing here, that the same process is in the first half of the year. Now, let's think. First half of the year, Tishrei corresponds to Nisan. So Avram liberated Tishrei, right? Cheshvan corresponds to Iyar. Yitzchak liberates Cheshvan, right? Then what comes next? Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. Yaakov liberates Kislev. We have Hanukkah, all right? But the last 3 months, Tevet, we have a Star B'Tevet already. Get it? It's like we're back in the realm of Esav. Tevet, then what? Shvat and Adar. Adar, we almost had the end. But what happens is the same exact thing. Half of it was torn away in the battle between Yaakov and Esav. So what is the turning point? Tu B'Shvat. Okay? Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av are the direct parallels to each other. So just like in Tu B'Shvat is the beginning of the Zmanim of Kedusha. In fact, starting with Tu B'Shvat, we're already thinking about Adar and Nisan, right? That's the time of Simcha. Same thing. It's because it's one unit. It's